Right. Sorry, this is third take. Ever professional, you know how we roll. I'm Dave. This is Jen, Freedom Thinking. And 8 months ago, it turns out, Kate, who we have with us today, she came up with her daughter to do an intensive with us. And ever since that, we have loved listening to Kate. There was a moment where Kate had a realization that really helped her and helped her with the parenting and schooling and all the other stuff that goes on in life. And since then, Kate has been a very active participant in our community groups. And she's somebody we deeply respect and we love listening to. And we haven't got a community group tonight. So what we thought we would do is, Kate spoke to us the other day and said, I've got something I'd like to share at community group. And we thought, well, why don't we just record it and put it out in it, because we're not putting out a community group, which will be next Thursday. So yeah, I would like to hand this over now to Kate. Sorry about that introduction.
Am I here?
You are live.
So what I wanted to share with you is what I've been seeing about reflection. And what I've realized is that when I went to see Dave and Jen, they knew that they couldn't give me this understanding. You know, they knew that you have to find it within you. And so what they did was they scattered these seeds. And what I'm seeing is that the way that I can nourish these seeds is through reflecting and reflection. And I think that what I'm really starting to understand is that you can't nourish these seeds through your intellect. It just doesn't work. And they don't respond. They don't grow. And then I'm seeing more and more that it's like, you know, what plants respond to is light. And I'm finding more and more consistently this place of light, this space within me. And it's like, that is where, you know, and it's reflecting, and that is where these seeds are. It's like they're growing in my consciousness because I'm finding this place of light. And so is my computer. And so the other day I've been doing a lot of, the kids are back at school, and I've been doing a lot of walking. And can you see, actually, where's my camera? Can you see this picture? So, yeah, so that's a bit like what it's like for me, because it's, at the moment, the sky's like that quite a lot. And it's like I can see now that, so the clouds are, that's my thinking. And then behind, you know, the more you think, the more the clouds sort of get in the way because of the light, but actually behind, the light's always there. And I'm sort of seeing, I'm just seeing that there's this place behind my thinking, away from my thinking. And the way I find this place is through reflecting. So for example, okay, so I'll give you an example that happened a couple of weeks ago. So it was actually at this community thing, whatever you call it. And I was and I was quite tired, and I was quite distracted. And I was probably in quite a low mood. And Dave said, you know, Kate, do you want to speak? And I started to speak, and I sort of got a bit of stage fright, and I just didn't know what I was saying. And then afterwards, I started to think about it, and I went off into my ego. And I was like, you know, it's like I had a mixing bowl, and I was putting into it, I was like, you know, I'll put in a bit of low mood, a bit of low self-esteem will go in, and a bit of self-consciousness, and a bit of, you know, I felt a bit embarrassed, and I'm mixing all this up. And I looked for some reassurance from the outside. I go up to Georgia and I say, Georgia, because she'd been listening. I said, you know, was that was I just going off on one? I didn't know what I was even saying. Was I sort of, making people listen to me when I was just talking rubbish? And it was like I was saying, Georgia, just have some of this mixture, just taste it with me. And she was just looking at it, and she was like, Mum, it's your ego. She was looking at this mixture going, just chuck it out, Mum, it's your ego. Yuck. You don't need to, you just leave it. She was completely disinterested. She's very wise. She's now 15. And she said, just leave it alone, Mum. And then I didn't leave it alone. I carried on mixing, and I was like, oh God, now I'm going to, if I see this is my thinking, and if I can see this is my ego, then why am I feeling it? So then on top of it, I started to scatter on a bit of judgment. So I was like really judging myself, and I was going, well, I really don't get this, because, I shouldn't be feeling this anymore because I know it's my ego. So then I just left it alone and I went to bed. And then the next day, this is what I have now. I have this reassurance that I've got this place that's always there, the light. And I know that if I start reflecting, when I'm in a quiet place, and this is not the thinking. What I was doing the night before was all thinking. And this is like, it's completely separate from that. It's like, it's passive, and it is more sort of receiving, and it's more listening. And I just know that every time now that I do this, something comes to me. It's just, before I thought it was a sort of bit of a fluke. When I found something and I heard something, I thought, oh, now I just know. I know that if I get calm and I get really present, it's always there. And I've got to the point now where I can go and look for it because I know it's there. If you don't know it's there, you don't go and look for it. And so what came to me was, what I'd been doing was, I had thought, and I hadn't realized I'd thought this, but I had thought, with this understanding, if I can see that it's my thinking, if I can recognize that it's my ego, then all the feeling will go away. And I didn't know I was thinking that, but I saw, this is what came to me. It's like, that's what you're thinking. And then I was like, so hang on a minute. I'm judging myself for being human. I'm judging myself for getting lost in the reality. The reality is supposed to look real. It does look real. This is why it's so amazing. This is why we have these amazing experiences, because it does look real. Otherwise, we wouldn't all buy into it. So I was basically judging myself for being human, and I could see the futility of it. And I just thought, I don't need to do that. That's not what this understanding is about. And since then, I've heard a lot of other people saying, well, if I get this understanding, I shouldn't be feeling this. Yes, you should. You can feel anything. There isn't a right and a wrong. And it's just how it all works, and it's accepting it. So then I had another experience, because this is the only way I can share this is via my experience, where there was something happened, and I slightly put my head above the parapet because it was something I believed in, or I felt about in the moment, I felt strongly about. And then the shit hit the fan. And it was really uncomfortable, because suddenly there was all this stuff going on. And if anyone knows about mothers and children and social media, and they'll know what I'm talking about here, it all explodes. And I started to think about it. And then I woke up at 5 a.m. on Saturday, and I started to think about it, and I started to feel quite anxious. And actually, this time, because of the reflection, because of the learning, I didn't judge myself for feeling anxious. I didn't go, oh, why am I feeling anxious? And because I wasn't judging myself, and because I wasn't focusing on it, I was just accepting it. It was quite normal to feel a bit anxious in this firefighting all these different mothers and situations. I could almost feel it and step outside of it. It was funny. It was being less attached to it in a way. And I was sort of saying to Pete, I feel really anxious, but laughing at the same time. It was, And also then I thought, you know, the anxiety is quite helpful because it's really making me think about this, think about having a look at the different realities that these different people are in, how they're seeing it, a bit more compassion. And I dealt with it differently. I think I dealt with it in a different way, and it resolved itself, and it was fine. It was different. And being less attached to it, I think that's what made it different. But it just all, you know, it takes me back to my realization I had when I was with Dave and Jen. And I think seeing, because before I'd always felt this presence, like I've always said, and I'd felt that presence, you know, when I was maybe up a mountain, or maybe I was in a church, or maybe when I was listening to music. When I was listening to bagpipes, I'd feel this presence and this energy, and I thought it was coming from the bagpipes. You know, maybe I'll get one of my children to learn the bagpipes and I can have more of this feeling. Or, you know, if I go to church, then I'll get more of this feeling. And actually what I started to see, what woke up for me when I was in Kendal, was that the common denominator, well, there's two. There's one, me, I'm always there. In all these different situations, I'm there. And in those situations, I'm always quiet. I'm always away from my thinking. I'm in that space that I didn't know existed. But when I'm in a church or listening to music, I'm sort of away from my reality. I'm away from it all. And I'm quiet and I'm present. And so then I started to see that it's coming from within me. It's not coming from the outside. It's coming from me. And I am this energy. And that was huge. When I started to feel that, that wasn't something that Dave and Jen could tell me, but I felt it. And ever since then, I've just been seeing that with reflecting, I can nourish these seeds that Dave and Jen have been sowing. And it's a bit like learning to ride a bike. And you know, Dave and Jen, they can say, they can tell me, you know, why don't you ride this bike? And I look at the bike and I think it's got two wheels and I'm just going to fall off. But I think by the time it got to day 2 or 3 with Dave and Jen, do you know what? I was ready to ride the bike because I tried everything else and I just thought, oh, sorry, I'll get on the bloody bike. And then they'd said, it's all right because there's balance and coordination. So you'll be fine. And I just, you know, there was an element of trust there, but it's an element of I've got nothing to lose. And so, but they couldn't explain that to me. I had to feel it. So, you know, you get on the bike and you feel you're okay. And then the thing is, you then, you know, it's not like you transcend life and you're not feeling life. Because on a bike, it's not like you go on this ET bike and you're flying. You're on a bike and you feel the bumps, you feel the hills, and you're still, you know, you're still feeling life. And so I then, you know, I for example, I then go into because I don't know about anything about this bike. I've got to feel it. And then I go into a pothole. And then I reflect. And this is the thing. It's not, you can't think your way through this, but when you just sort of see what happened and reflect, then you start to feel, and then you realize, and then you go, oh my gosh, there's steering. And then you've got this hill and it's really hard work. And then you get to the top and then you reflect, wow, that's hard work. Hang on a minute. I think Dave mentioned gears. So then you see, you know, I can use the gears, and then you feel it. And then you're like, whoa, this is way easier. And then you realize, you know, you go flying down, you hit the wall, and then you realize that there's brakes, and you feel how the brakes work. And it's all about feeling it for yourself, and it all comes alive from within you. And then, and I've gone from this like little trikey stabilizing thing to this, I feel like I'm on this racing bike now, and it's great. And then I was talking to, and that is coming through reflecting. Dave and Jen, they told me all along, you know, there's gears and brakes and stuff, but I had to find them all myself. And then I was talking with the lovely Susan on the community group. And she was, we'd been talking about anxiety and Georgia and stuff. And she'd said, she'd been looking at this for a while, and she'd been thinking about it. And, the 3 principles. And then I said, you are, and she said, I know about this bike. I'm going to keep going on about the bike now. But anyway, she said, I know about the bike, but I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling the balance and the coordination. I'm just looking for it, but I can't feel it. And it just occurred to me. I said, your bike is on the stand in your flat. I said, you're not feeling it because you haven't taken it outside. You're not riding the bike. You've been told about the bike, but you're not on it. You haven't let go. And I said, it's like that. It's a quote. It's a quote by Einstein that I read, which was the ship. You heard that quote? The ship is always safe on shore, but that's not what it's built for. And I said this to Susan. She was like, I've been holding really tightly onto my reality because it felt safe, even though it's uncomfortable, and even though she knew that wasn't living. And then all I said to her was just through, reflecting, this is going to come from within you. Because at the beginning she sort of said, Kate, it's like you're psychic, you're seeing what's going on. I said, no, you're just doing the same as Georgia. And it's nothing, there's nothing special about what you're doing. And I said, this is all going to come from within you. It's not going to come from me. It's got to come from within you. You've got to get out and you just got to ride that bike and see what happens. And then with Georgia, okay, if I put Georgia on the bike now. So she didn't want to. If I think about it now, she didn't want to ride the bike at all. But if she had, at the beginning, when you watch parents and they're teaching their kid to ride their bike, and they don't let, and they're holding on. See, I think I was holding on, and I don't think I didn't know that about the balance and the coordination, and I thought she would fall. I didn't know. So I probably wouldn't have let go anyway if she had wanted to go on the bike, but she didn't really want to go on the bike. But then she changed her mind. So 3 weeks ago, this is all it's been, 3 weeks, and she changed her mind and she did something different, and she started to listen, and she, she's going to give the bike a go. And so then as soon as she had listened that one time, we could reflect on that, and we could just go to that space and say, did you see what happened last night when you did something different? And it's that whole space of reflection, and it's not thinking, it's just sort of listening. And then she went to school. So she got on the bike, she went to school. And then on the Monday, and it was great, and she felt it. And then on the Monday, she hit a pothole. And she went back into that familiar anxious thinking, creates the reality. It's real, it's scary. And when she came out of it, I just said, look, we reflected, and I said, did you sort of see nothing other than the fact that you went back into your anxious thinking, and that's fine. But you've seen something else now and you felt it. And she was like, yeah. And she said, Mum, it's a bit late, because she hadn't gone to school. And she said, it's late, but can we go now? And I said, yeah, we'll go to school now. So she gets straight back on the bike again. She's felt it. She knows now. And then a few days later, something else happens and she has another wobble on the bike. And she gets upset at school. And she goes and she sees the nurse and she's upset, and she's, and the nurse starts to talk to her about anxiety and says, you've got a history of anxiety. And, this is very innocent. She's trying to help. But she's telling Georgia, you've got a history of anxiety and you can see a counsellor. And Georgia, she could sense it. She could sense that innocently this nurse was like letting the air out of her tires. And so she just went, she carried on. She was like, and she talked to me about it afterwards. And again, there was this space for her to reflect. And what she focused on is not the fact that she'd had a wobble. because that's fine. She's allowed to have a wobble. She's learning to ride a bike. She focused on the fact that she then went to her maths lesson. She told, she said to the nurse, no, I'm not anxious. She went to the maths lesson. She was thrilled that she had done that she had managed to leave her anxious thinking behind. It's not a thing for her now. She can sort of see it was an illusion. And so she hasn't looked back. She's on an enduro mountain bike. She's just away. I mean, she's not, she's living life now. She's not looking back. And then, okay, I have to say one more thing about the bike. I'm getting a bit carried away with the bike. But then I'm thinking about, because I have to put everyone on the bike, so now Pete has to go on the bike. So I'm thinking, before I thought that everyone had to ride, I thought everyone had to ride the bike. Once I'd seen the bike and had a go, I thought it, and I tried to put Pete in the bike. I was like, come on, Pete, go on the bike. And Pete's really working at the moment, very hard, too hard. But he's not particularly interested in this bike. And he, I've realized that that's fine, because the balance and coordination is there anyway. It's this wisdom that guides us through life is there anyway. If I look at myself before this understanding, I was still guided through life. But the only thing is, it's not quite so colourful, it's not quite so fun maybe, and it's not quite, you do feel every pothole and you do find it hard work going up the hills, but that doesn't work in the analogy because you're not on the bike, so forget that. But but you know what I mean. So all I can do is ride the bike around Pete and go, woohoo, this is fun, and he might want to have a go. But okay, I'm going to leave the bike now. But the thing is, this is all what I guess what I'm just saying is, and I'm going to stop now, is just that this is all coming to me from this different place. And it's a place that I didn't know existed. And I've seen again and again that when I go there and when I just get calm and I get present, it just never lets you down. And at the beginning, when I first did this, when my cousin said to me, she said, about the traffic on the road, she said, she said, I still hear the traffic. Don't tell me that's my thinking, because the cars are real. And I thought about it, and then I was like, I said, well, what do you think about the traffic? And she said, I hate the traffic, and the traffic means this, and the traffic means that I'm living in the wrong place and I should be in Wales. And I talked to her about, well, my son, I just went up to his room and the cars were going past the window. And I said, Fred, this is really loud. How are you working with the traffic? And he said, what traffic? He'd given it no meaning. But when that happened, I just thought that was magic. I was like, I just looked around and went, where did that come from? But it came from it's within all of us. Or it's accessible for all of us. Once we just get calm and get present, and I guess when you know it's there, you go and look for it. And I think that we spend our whole time looking outside of ourselves, when actually hey Rusty, it's there within. And I guess the other thing is that the practical thing is that when you look for a feeling, so when I was, a couple of weeks ago, and I was making that mix of horrible, uncomfortable feeling, and I was holding on to it. And when something feels bad, then you're looking in the wrong place. I mean, it's fine, but if you're thinking through your thinking that you're finding wisdom or you're finding peace of mind, but you're feeling bad, then you're not. You're still in your reality and you're still in your thinking. And I hadn't seen that I was still in my thinking, because I thought, if I'm thinking it, and I know I'm thinking it, then I don't have to feel it anymore. But it was all thought. And it's only when you step outside your reality, you just let go, and you just, even for a moment, then something else comes to you. And that's through reflection. And I think that's all I'm going to say.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kate.
I love it's so nice to sit back and listen.
Yeah.
And I think it's been so lovely to be able to be part of you seeing what you've been seeing, and we get to have conversations and hear. And I think to have someone come with their daughter, and it seemed like it was for your daughter, for Georgia, but you just it was almost like, because of that, it felt like you listened differently, and we got to see you wake up, and then you're continuing to wake up. And it's really, I love just being around it. And I think there's something about listening to you also that reminds me of that. It reminds me of the magic that's there when you start to realize that space, and how at being a human, it's so easy to get lost in the crap again. And then I think there's something about listening to you that just, it's like that, whatever that place that I found in me is the same that is in you, and it reminds me of that place. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time to share with us. And you know, you'll always, whenever we put you on the spot on community group, even though you've got like tea time going on and kids in and out, and you always take the time.
Just off camera.
And I know that the beautiful thing also about that call, where you felt like you weren't present, and you had all that judgment about yourself, we then had someone message saying, could you send us the recording of that, because I want to listen to what Kate said again. And you just, so thank you. Thank you for always taking the time and sharing honestly and from your heart. It's really, really appreciated.
And I think some of the points you brought up just then, like, you know, reflection is a beautiful thing. We've got colleagues that say hindsight is insight. You can see how things have gone in the past, and you can avoid them in the future. You know, you can learn from memory. But learning itself only ever takes place truly from that space you're talking about. That's where new things are learned. They're not learned from what we already know. They're learned from new thought. And new thought is born within the mind and within that space of quiet. And I love the way you speak about, because I think this is a really fundamental point. This is not an anesthetic to life that we're talking about. We're not talking about having an anesthetic to anesthetize ourselves to certain feelings within the life spectrum, but to engage with life, to engage with it, and to be fully present in the anxiety, in the stress, in the worry, in the whatever it is, whatever we're showing up as. Like you said, there's no wrong feelings. And people listen to us and they go, yeah, I hear that, but I don't like these feelings and I want rid of them. It's interesting. That's the best way to create whatever feeling we don't actually want, is to be afraid of them. But I think when you start to wake up to this, like you have, Kate, you realise there is nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of in feelings and within the mind, and in so doing so, you set yourself free. But like you say, this has to come from within you, within an individual. And to see people, and we have an awesome job, don't we? We absolutely love our job. You know, in one respect, it's the easiest job on the planet. On the other respect, it's the hardest job on the planet. Rudy used to say that, didn't he? And it's like, I get it, it's true. It's because you cannot give this to people. You cannot give what you found to people. You can share with words. You point people in a direction, but like you've spoken about all the way through this has to come from within, and you will not find it from any other place. You will not find it in a talk. You will not find it in a book. You will only find this awareness within yourself, and it's already there. Everybody's already in. And I think that's such a beautiful thing you've spoken about tonight, Kate, or this afternoon. And thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. It was really beautiful listening to you. Do you want to say anything else?
No, not really. I mean, but what you just said then, you know, like when I about it being a nice, not that this is my job, but just talking with Susan and seeing, just in the space of a couple of weeks, someone go from being very sort of caught up in their thinking, and then to just start reflecting and seeing that she can do something different and doing something different, and then noticing that she's noticing, and then seeing a lightness and seeing a change is nice.
Yeah, it is.
And that's coming from her.
That's right.
So yeah, I'm happy for her.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks for this. Thanks for getting in touch with us.
No, I'm glad we're not doing community group because it inspired this idea. So
yeah, and I don't think this is in any way anything less. So that's fantastic. Thank you. I was better, yeah. It's better listening to other people than not us blabbering on. Thank you, Kate.
thank
Love.
you.
Mwah. See you soon.
Bye.